Strength is easy to admire from a distance. It's easy to celebrate the person who never falls apart, the one who always holds the room together when everything else is breaking down. It's easy to call someone resilient, to applaud their calm, their grace under pressure, when we only see the after, never the aching during. But no one talks about the quiet tax strength demands. No one talks about how, once you're cast as the strong one, the world forgets to check if you're okay, because strength, real sustained strength, becomes a kind of invisibility cloak, not the kind that hides you in shame or fear, the kind that hides your needs, your exhaustion, your small human hopes that someone else, just once, might offer to carry the heavy thing you always lift without being asked. This script isn't about glorifying resilience. It's about exposing the invisible architecture of emotional labor, how the world builds its balance on the backs of those it calls unbreakable. Strength rarely announces itself. It doesn't look like the polished moment on stage, or the perfect speech, or the clean success story. Real strength is quieter than that. It's built in the moments no one sees, sitting alone at night solving a crisis you can't even talk about, biting your tongue in meetings to keep the peace, even though the words claw at you to be said, managing your own heartbreak while still showing up for others, because they needed you first. It's not that the strong don't need support. It's that the world gets so used to receiving from them, it forgets to ask what they might need in return. And when you do it enough times, when you show up reliably, sturdily, people stop checking. They assume that if you were struggling, you'd tell them. They assume that because you never drop the ball, you must never get tired of juggling. But the truth about being the strong one is this. You learn early that asking for help often comes with too high a cost, because when you finally dare to say, "I'm struggling," you can feel the ripple, the surprise, the discomfort, sometimes even the disappointment. You, struggling? It doesn't fit the story they've written for you. It doesn't fit the story you've learned to tell about yourself. And so, over time, you stop trying. You learn to be self-sufficient not out of pride, but out of necessity. You become your own rescue plan. You build internal scaffolding so strong that when the winds blow, you bend, you sway, but you never break, at least not where anyone can see. You stop reaching out. You stop believing that anyone will catch you if you fall, not because people are cruel, but because they have quietly built their expectations around your strength. And when you deviate from that role, it unsettles them. You were supposed to be the steady one, the dependable one, the one who makes the storm easier for everyone else. And if you're not that, who will be? There's a special kind of grief that lives inside the strong one. It's the grief of unseen labor, of unseen hurt, of moments when you desperately wanted someone to look closer, to notice that you were carrying too much, and no one did. It happens at work, where you're praised for always keeping it together, even as you drown under the quiet burden of taking care of everyone's emotional weather. It happens in families, where you become the unofficial therapist, the peacekeeper, the fixer, until your own needs feel inconvenient. It happens in relationships, where you're admired for being so independent, but then subtly punished if you ever show need or vulnerability. The strong ones are easy to love when they're performing strength, but when they falter, even briefly, the room gets uncomfortable, because strength makes people feel safe, and when that strength trembles, people feel exposed. And so you keep going. You learn to self-soothe with small secret rituals, the song you play on repeat in the car, because it lets you cry without having to explain it. The long walks where you sort out your own chaos because no one else will. The notes you write to yourself at 2 a.m. The ones that say, "You're doing better than you think," because no one else is awake to say it. You build little altars to survival, not because you want to be worshipped, but because you know no one else will light the candles for you. But here's what strength doesn't teach you. Even steel bends under enough pressure. Even the unbreakable have fault lines. The longer you carry everything alone, the deeper the cracks grow beneath the surface. Invisible until suddenly they're not. And by the time you realize how much you're bleeding, you've already convinced the world, and maybe even yourself, that you don't bleed, that you're different, that you don't need. But needing is not weakness. Needing is human. The mythology of strength is seductive. It says, if you are strong, you will be safe. If you are strong, you will be admired. If you are strong enough, you will never have to feel abandoned again. But strength cannot protect you from loneliness. It cannot protect you from the slow erosion of being unseen. And the longer you hide behind strength, the harder it becomes to remember who you were before you learned to armor yourself. Sometimes the strongest people have the softest hearts. They are strong because they had to be, not because they wanted to be, because there was no safety net, because someone had to stay standing, because falling apart was not an option. And sometimes the strongest people carry a quiet, aching question inside them. Will anyone ever love me if I'm not strong? Will anyone ever sit with me? Not because they need something from me, but because they choose me. Messy, tired, unsure. All of me. Healing for the strong is a dangerous rebellion. It looks like admitting you are tired. It looks like putting down burdens that were never meant to be yours. It looks like risking disappointment. The terrible fear that if you show your need, some people might leave. And yet, it is only through risking that loss that you make space for something real to grow. Because not everyone will leave. Not everyone will punish your humanity. There are people, rare but real, who will see past the myth, who will hear the silences you don't know how to speak, who will not love you because you are useful, but because you are real. Relearning softness after a lifetime of strength is not easy. It feels foreign, risky, even wrong. You might catch yourself apologizing for crying. You might feel guilt when you ask for help. You might even try to fix the people trying to help you, because fixing is what you know. But every time you resist the urge to armor up, every time you sit in your need without running from it, you are healing. Not by becoming weaker, by becoming whole. To the strong ones, you were never meant to do it all alone. Absolutely. I understand exactly what you need. I'll continue from the point you gave. Same tone, same style. Expand it richly, adding around 1,000 more words naturally. Still emotional, reflective, layered. No sudden change. Starting now. You were never meant to shrink your pain into manageable, palatable pieces so that others wouldn't be uncomfortable. You deserve tenderness, not just admiration. You deserve care, not just applause. And you deserve to be loved, not for what you can endure, but simply for existing. Because love that depends on your usefulness is not love. It's transaction. And you were never meant to be a transaction. You were meant to be a home, a story, a soul worth knowing, even when your hands are empty and your heart is heavy. The world teaches the strong ones that their value lies in how much they can hold. But the truth is, your value has nothing to do with how much weight you can bear. It was never about the load you could carry. It was always about the life you could live if you were finally allowed to set it down. You are not failing when you get tired. You are not broken when you need. You are not weak when you fall apart. You are human, and there is more strength in showing your fractures than there ever was in hiding them. There will be days when you still armor up out of habit. Days when someone asks, "How are you?" and the automatic "I'm fine" leaps from your mouth before your heart has a chance to speak. Days when vulnerability feels too raw, too risky, too much like standing naked in a cold, unwelcoming room. It's okay. Healing is not linear. It's messy, unpredictable, full of stumbles and backslides. Sometimes strength masquerades as silence, but real strength now looks like staying open, even when it's easier to shut down. It looks like saying, "I'm not okay. I'm tired. I need help," even when your voice shakes, even when your mind screams at you to handle it alone, even when a lifetime of self-sufficiency fights you every step of the way. Every time you speak your truth, you are rewiring the map. You are building new pathways inside yourself, ones that lead not to isolation, but to connection. The strong ones are often the healers, the empaths, the caretakers. They are the ones who learn too early that love must be earned through service, through sacrifice, through silence. But what if you didn't have to earn it anymore? What if your worth was not conditional? Imagine a world where you didn't have to prove your value through exhaustion, where your exhaustion itself was seen, not as a flaw to be fixed, but as a call to be held. Imagine friendships where you don't have to minimize your pain to make others comfortable, where you don't have to pretend you're fine because you're afraid your sadness might be too heavy for someone else to hold. Imagine relationships where your softness is not a liability, but a treasure. Imagine being met fully, not for the version of yourself that makes everything easier for everyone else, but for the full, complicated, messy you. You deserve that, not because you've earned it through decades of resilience, but because you were always worthy of it, even when you were fighting battles no one saw. There is a different kind of life waiting for you. A life where strength and softness coexist, where needing does not mean failing, where love is not rationed based on performance, and it starts when you begin to believe, really believe, that you are enough as you are. Not when you achieve one more thing, not when you fix one more person, not when you prove, again, how little you need. Now as you are, even if you're tired, even if you're messy, even if you're still learning how to unhook your worth from your usefulness. Especially then, healing will ask you to grieve the roles you played to survive, the armor you built, the masks you wore so well that sometimes you almost believed they were your real skin. There will be grief. Grief for the years you spent pouring out and receiving so little in return. Grief for the times you begged the world to see you, and it only saw what it could take from you. Grief for the moments you needed holding, and instead were handed applause. Let yourself mourn. Mourn the childhoods that asked for too much maturity. Mourn the workplaces that prized your competence but ignored your humanity. Mourn the relationships that loved your light but flinched from your darkness. Because mourning is not weakness. It's the first act of reclaiming yourself. You cannot heal what you will not grieve. And then, after the mourning, will come something else. Something quieter, more tentative, more precious. A rebuilding. You will start to notice the people who see you without you having to audition. You will start to find spaces where you can exhale without fearing collapse. You will start to trust that love can find you even when you have nothing to offer but your presence. And slowly, so slowly it might feel invisible at first, you will learn that being loved does not require being invulnerable. You will learn that love, real love, expands to meet you where you are, not where you perform yourself to be. Some days, you will still miss the old armor. It was heavy, but it was familiar. It was lonely, but it was safe. But there is a difference between safe and whole. Safe kept you surviving. Whole will let you live, and you deserve to live. You deserve to inhabit your own life, not just endure it. To the strong ones relearning softness, you are not betraying your strength. You are honoring it. Because real strength was never about carrying the unbearable without complaint. It was about surviving long enough to find your way home. Home, not in other people, not in proving yourself, not in never needing. Home, in yourself, in your messy, magnificent, unarmored humanity. There will always be a part of you that knows how to stand alone in the storm. That part is sacred. It saved you. But you are allowed now to choose differently. You are allowed to choose warmth over endurance. You are allowed to choose softness over stoicism. You are allowed to choose connection over competence. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to ask. You are allowed to need. And you are allowed, above all, to be loved. Fully, freely, fiercely, exactly as you are.